here. Got a few more people joining. I'm really excited. I'm so glad that everyone's here. This is going to be so much fun. That's my dog. Lacy is very excited too. While a few more people are joining on, I'm going to go move him.
Cool.
I gotta unmute. Hey, Heather. How are you?
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah, so we also have Heather and Sam here. They are both such wonderful herbalists. They work with Herbalista, a local organization here in Atlanta, doing some really cool things for our community. So very excited they were able to join, especially because they are proficient medicine makers and are going to be able to walk us through this Fire Cider process. All right. So
yeah, I really miss all the class. I miss being able to see everybody and do all the work, and it was awesome.
It was such a great experience. And so if anybody, this is Taryn who's talking. She was in our herbalism class last year. And it's so funny because about a year ago is when we gathered to make medicine together for the first time. So it's really serendipitous that we're all back here together like a year later making another batch of Fire Cider.
And it was Fire Cider that we made too, so full circle.
It's very interesting how the world works. So I'm so excited. We'll go ahead and get going because I know you all have things to do and I want to be conscious of your time. Oh, look, Summer's going to make medicine too. My sister's dog is here. She's going to make some medicine. So we'll go ahead and get started. I want to give a rundown of how all of this is going to move just because, I don't know, I enjoy it when people do that. That was like my favorite thing about church when I was a kid, to be able to know exactly what was coming up and where we were in our programming. So we're going to start off with the plant connection meditation. For that, you will need some sort of like piece of plant material. That could be a sprig of something from your yard. I've got some holy basil here. That could be rosemary from your garden or your kitchen. It could be something as simple as like a tea or a tea bag. It can be dried, fresh, whatever you have. We can make it work. And so we're going to do a plant connection meditation. If you don't have your plant material, feel free to go ahead and grab that now. After the plant connection meditation, we're going to launch into the good stuff, which is making some good old-fashioned Fire Cider. It's going to be super fun. If you're not making a batch along with us, that's totally fine. You can just watch and learn about the process. I also am recording this call, so if you want to watch it later and have it available so that you can have some direction as you're making your batch, you can have that. At the end, I'll show you, you can put your email in the chat box and I can send you a recording of the call. After a Fire Cider, we are going to do a beautiful grounding meditation where we touch into the energy of Mother Earth so that we can just end this call in a really grounded space. And then after that, we're going to talk a little bit about what Herbalista is doing here in the Atlanta community and how you can be a part of that. So that's sort of our programming for today. I'm really excited, and so we'll go ahead and get started. If you would, just get comfortable in whatever space you're in. It's always nice to meditate with your feet on the ground. If you can, go ahead and untwist your legs and your arms so that we have nice, clear circuits of energy to move. But essentially, truly anything that's comfortable to you. We'll go ahead and also grab your plant material and just have that in your hand. It can be in your left hand or your right hand. It's really interesting. There are a lot of schools of thought about the way that energy moves, and it's thought that the left side of the body is the feminine, receptive side of the body, and that the right side is the masculine output. So you can put it in your left hand or your right hand, whatever you feel intuitively drawn to. And now that you have that plant in your hand, what we want to start with is not closing our eyes and even breathing yet. I want you to start examining the plant that you have, the plant material, whether it's tea or a sprig or whatever. Start examining it, looking closely. And as you examine it, every little nodule and leaf, I want you to start connecting with your breath. Breathing in deep into the belly, noticing how good it feels to be connected to the breath. Breathing out as you fall deeper into looking and examining this plant that you have. Taking another breath in that just feels so good as we bring oxygen into our body. And exhale as you feel the relief of that breath leaving the body. While breathing this way, just in and out in a connected fashion, we're going to start using all of our senses to connect with this plant. Sometimes it's a lot easier to start with the physical as we move into the more energetic. So I want you to start just continuing to think about, what does this plant look like? And it's very simple things, like note that you notice it's a green plant, or that it has a little bit of purple to it. Staying connected to the breath as you breathe in and out, noticing what it looks like. The ripples on the leaves, maybe it has hairs, maybe it has bumps. It's symmetrical, maybe it's not symmetrical. Again, just staying connected to the breath. Then I want us to use another sense and start noticing what it feels like in our hand. Is it really light? Is it soft? Is it maybe a little scratchy? Is it heavier than you thought it would be? Or maybe a lot lighter than you thought it would be? Again, breathing in and out as you just use this sense to connect with this plant. The next thing you notice is if you had to imagine what it would taste like. And if you feel comfortable, you're more than welcome to go ahead and pop it in and put a little in your mouth. I was taught that it's always a great thing to taste a plant. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, again, just imagining, what do you think it would taste like? Is it minty and spicy? Is it sweet? Does it sit on your tongue? Again, just breathing in and out as we engage our senses, as we engage our imagination, and as we engage our breath. From there, I want you to roll it around in your hand and notice if it makes any sounds. Is it crinkly? Is it soft and mushy and muted? Listening for anything that this plant wants to just whisper to you. Taking another breath in and exhaling as we move to the final and my favorite step with any plant. We're going to take a deep breath of this plant and notice what it smells like. Is it a strong smell or a weak smell? Is it what you thought it would smell like? How does that smell make you feel? And where do you feel it in your body? As you smell, take a deep breath in. Exhale. As you notice how nice it feels to be connected to the breath. With your next breath, I want you to inhale this plant deeply, deeper than you thought before. And as you exhale, go ahead and let your eyes close if you'll feel comfortable. And with that exhale, as you close your eyes, sink further into the body, keeping the plant in your hand and bringing your awareness to your hand that has the plant in it. I want you to start sensing what you feel in your hand. taking another breath in and noticing the sensations that you feel. Do you feel warmth? Do you feel cold? Does it feel light? Maybe there's some sort of taste that you're experiencing or some sort of color that you're seeing. As you step into this plant energy with your intuition and with this other sixth sense that we have all the time. Don't worry if it takes a minute to get it going. Just continue to connect to the breath, breathing deeply in, all the way to the belly, and exhaling fully, letting your shoulders drop, keeping your awareness in your hand with the plant, and noticing what that energy feels like. Is there a word that comes to mind as you connect with this plant energy? Maybe it's a memory. Is there some sort of knowing that comes across to you? Just something that pops in your mind that wasn't there a few moments before? Maybe it's just a feeling. Maybe you feel happy and calm. Maybe you feel silly. Whatever feeling comes to you, move towards that, again, while remaining connected to the breath. Intuition manifests differently for everyone. Sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's a color, sometimes it's just knowing something that you didn't know a moment before. All plants have something beautiful to teach us. If we can tap in to the channel and the language that our intuition is trying to use. Once you are experiencing this energy, again, maybe a tingle, a warmth, a color, I want you to allow that energy to fill your hand the plant is in. And as it fills your hand, I want you to use your breath to inhale that energy up your arm. Exhale, because it feels good to have that relief. I want you to inhale again and allow that energy to continue moving up your arm until it finds your way to your chest. Take a deep breath in and let that energy fill your heart center. Exhale and sink deeper into that energy. Continue to breathe this way as you allow whatever comes up to come up. Maybe you feel some sort of sensation or thought or emotion. Breathe into those things. Greet anything that comes up for you with compassion and curiosity, and allow it to integrate into your heart center. Breathe in feeling and express gratitude for the peace that you find with this plant. We'll take one more breath in this space and exhale as we let that energy radiate throughout our whole body. Now I want you to begin to trace your awareness back down your arm, from the top of the arm to the lower arm, back to the knee, right to where the herb sits in your hand. And I want you to say thank you and express gratitude for the energy and the spirit of this plant that visited you and participated in this with you. I want you to recognize that this energy is held within you, as it also is you. That this spirit of this plant is forever etched in your heart. And it's just a really beautiful thing. I want you to take another deep breath in and exhale fully, and begin to bring your awareness back to your full body. I want you to notice your legs in the chair. I want you to notice your back on your chair. Notice the way your feet feel and your hands feel. I want you to take a breath in as I count you back to our reality at 5, 4, shake your shoulders, 3, 2, take a deep breath in, and exhale 1, as you open your eyes when you feel ready to be back in the space. And whenever you're ready, feel free to open your eyes. This is a process I try to do before I work with any plant. For me, it's really important to have that moment of connection, but also reverence for the medicine that I'm about to make, for the energy that I'm about to engage in. It also just feels really freaking good. You know, the earth is always ready to work with, and just a simple way to connect and say, what do you have to show me? What's something that, you know, we can move together? And so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that you continue to do that. You know, it's a wonderful thing to make a cup of tea and run through that exercise. If anybody wants to, feel free to pop on and we can use like a minute or two to tell me if you had some sort of experience, if you felt something or something came to you that felt important for you to just name. Alex, I see you raising your hand.
Yes. So I was kind of getting dinner ready when you were going through the intro stuff. And so I got just a sprig of rosemary. And it was really interesting. First off, this particular sprig does not smell like any rosemary I've ever used before, which makes me like, I'm going to have to ask my roommate this special rosemary. Like it almost smells, it has like almost like a lemon balm smell. Which I found so interesting. And of course, I also love smells too. So that was the first place that I also went. But there's something just so soft and sensual about touching the sprig of rosemary, which was surprising. Usually think about it as being like very prickly and something very savory, and yet it felt so much brighter. I had feelings of like, maybe it was the like lemon balm in my head, but I had feelings of like yellow, and there was just this warm buzziness that started in like my spine. So it was very, very cool to kind of just get an idea of what this was like. It was definitely just a lot more sensual than I'd been expecting. So I thought it was great. So thank you.
Awesome. Girl, you didn't know that herbs are sexy? They're sexy as hell.
Of course, right.
I love that. I love that you have that experience. And this is why it's a cool thing to do it, because you can read about a plant in a book, you can study it, you know, what it says online or in your Materia Medica or whatever, but your experience of a plant is totally different. You know, it's like if you read about someone in a book and then met them in person, there's always something so much deeper about that one-to-one. So thank you for sharing. That's exactly why, you know, I like to do this stuff, because I'm like, oh, I think I know everything about this plant, but then I don't know the experience of the plant. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for sharing, Alex. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over while we're in this nice connected space to Sam and Heather. It is so cool that they're here. I actually met Sam for the first time on this call, which no better way to make friends than to make medicine together. But Heather, I've known for a while. We took the same herbalism course together. We had some nice competitive quiz competitions in the class and made a tight, I'm sure Taryn is laughing and maybe Maria too. Had some great times in the class. It's so nice that she's here. And so, you know, both of them do great work with this Atlanta organization, Herbalista. I'm sure you have heard of Herbalista before. They are everything in this herbalist community here in Atlanta and beyond. So it's so awesome that they're here. And please put your hands together virtually or physically for Heather and Sam.
Go for it, Heather. You go first.
So I figured we just introduce Herbalista a little bit and ourselves. So Sam and I are both apprentices with Herbalista, with the Herbalista crew currently. And our work has changed a little bit since the current situation has sort of befallen on us, but our work is still based in the same sort of mission of accessible, low cost, and free plant-based medicine and education. So I think one of the really powerful things about plant medicine is the adaptability of it. So whereas a month ago or 2 months ago, we were hosting health fairs where we were, seeing all kinds of people and offering free services and classes to a bunch of different folks. We've had to shift now and are really focusing on supporting the immune systems of our friends on the street. So those who are most vulnerable under normal circumstances, but with everything that's going on are even more underserved. So that has looked like us really shifting to obviously not seeing anybody in person. And we're now putting all of our effort pretty much into making these care packs. So we make about 60 to 80 care packs a week to distribute to folks. And they have a lot of simple remedies. One of our staples is actually Fire Cider that we end up blending with an elderberry syrup. So again, it's like such a simple remedy, but it's so powerful. And we're also putting a lot of effort into our online resources, which we'll talk about later a little bit more. But basically, especially in times of uncertainty, we don't want folks to feel entirely dependent on a somewhat dysfunctional system. So we're constantly doing our best to provide education and support so that people can feel empowered and have a little bit of ownership over their own health. So that's sort of the gist, by the people, for the people, basically. So, end spiel.
It's a great spiel, a very important spiel. What you guys are doing it's just so wonderful. And so gathering here together to make Fire Cider is, at the heart of, what you all do every day, which is not only getting finished product into the hands of the people, but also empowering people to learn how to make their own medicine. So I'm really excited for this. I've got all my stuff set up. I'm currently breathing in copious amounts of ginger and garlic. So excuse me if
Sam, do you have anything to add?
No, other than that, I keep getting a warning that my internet is unstable. So just to keep you guys on your toes, I may disappear. But I think you said it perfectly, Heather, from what I heard.
Great, thanks. Okay, do you want to introduce Fire Cider then?
Yeah, let's do it.
So like,
I think her screen is frozen.
sure. So it's my, Heather, maybe you introduce it, and I'm going to move to a different room in the house.
Okay, I gotcha. Technical difficulties. We're learning. We're evolving in the age of internet communication. So, all right. So, what even is Fire Cider? So, Fire Cider is an infused vinegar with basically everyday kitchen herbs. And that's what makes it great, is a lot of that stuff you can find at your local grocery store, and you can even just riff off of it based on what you have. So there's Fire Cider is like chicken soup or a marinara sauce or something. It's like you have your base and then you add whatever you want. So there's like so many chicken soup recipes, and same thing with Fire Cider. So basically it's like this warming, stimulating vinegar tonic that people have used traditionally to sort of fight off the cold season and everything that comes with that, including viruses and colds and congestion and, circulation issues and all of that. So it's been used vinegar tonics have been used for like forever, a really long time. But Fire Cider specifically, the term was coined in the 80s by Rosemary Gladstar. So kind of an old remedy, but like newish name. But the base of Fire Cider always pretty much consists of fresh garlic, onions, ginger, horseradish, and some sort of like chili peppers or cayenne, something really hot. But other than that, it's basically kind of like whatever you want or have on hand. So we'll go ahead and like run through the recipe that we use at Herbalista, because I know that's the one that we sent out. That's the sheet that y'all have. And then we'll kind of maybe go through some variations and kind of spark some creativity there. So let's get going. One thing I will say is I encourage you, if you have the ingredients in front of you, to use your senses as we're going through these. It's called organoleptics, actually. It's using your senses to identify a plant. So tasting it and smelling it and, you know, looking at it and really like getting to know it that way. And that's part of proper ID too. It's just like when you taste ginger, you're like, oh yeah, that's ginger. Like if ginger was like sweet, or if like something you thought was ginger was sweet or cooling or something, you might be like, like, I don't know if this is ginger. So that's like a really important part of getting to know a plant. Okay, so let's hit it, shall we? Okay, so we will start with garlic. So if any of y'all are actually making medicine today, then gather your herbs and we'll get going. So it's 1 head of garlic. And garlic, I consider, like, not to rank a hierarchy or anything, but I consider one of the most important herbs in this blend because it's so great for stimulating the immune system. And it's very like hot and pungent. Like y'all have all had garlic before, I'm sure, and you know how it like really gets things moving. So that's one of the great things about Fire Cider, and that is like based on all of the things but garlic majorly. So it's, you want it to be fresh. You could use dried, but fresh garlic has a much stronger immune system effect, whereas dried garlic has benefits, but it's not really as strong for the immune system. So you want to get fresh garlic, and you also want to chop it up and like smash it up and make sure it's all chopped up, because that actually increases the antibacterial and antimicrobial actions of it. If you put the garlic cloves in whole, they will turn blue, which is cool, but it's not as great of a medicine. They turn blue because of like a sulfur copper sort of reaction with the apple cider vinegar and the garlic, but once you smash it up, it doesn't normally do that. But even though it's cool, you still want to smash it up. But maybe once, like, try it just to see it, because it's really cool.
I'll also say really quickly, if you have questions as we move through this, feel free to put them in the chat or just ask. And I was going to say, I wanted to ask a question really quick, Heather. When we do like a head of garlic, do you know roughly how many cups that is, or what we sort of shoot for?
Not really. You know, that is one thing to say about Fire Cider, is it's not very specific as far as ingredients. Like, we definitely labeled out all the different measurements that we do, just because we're replicating this recipe so often that we want to make it easy on ourselves. But you could put as much garlic as you want. You could put 2 whole heads. You could put half a head. I chopped up a whole head and it's about half a cup. But, you know, depending on the size of the head of your garlic, it might be more or less. But it's really like your preference. So that's what I'll reiterate throughout this whole thing, is Fire Cider is like your preference. It's your chance to get creative and put in what you like.
Perfect. And what I like to do, if you're making some along with us, grab a pen and a piece of paper. One of the biggest lessons I learned in medicine making is to always write down what you're putting in to your medicine, because you think you will remember, but you will not remember. So yeah, because Fire Cider is so easy to modify, make sure when you make modifications, just jot them down somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point. Because you don't want to be like, oh, this is the best Fire Cider I've ever made, and then realize that you didn't label it, and then you have no idea what you did. Okay, so we're going to put, I have my jar here. We're going to put our garlic in there.
And we're using a 64-ounce jar. If you don't have a 64-ounce, feel free to use like 2 32s or 4 16s, whatever you have on hand, and you can just measure it out. But a 64 is a great thing to use.
Yeah, that's great. It gives you plenty of space. But again, use what you have.
That's the whole dramatic plop as you plop the garlic down this.
Oh, damn.
Yes. Love the drama.
Okay, and then So next we have ginger. So again, like organoleptic check if you want to taste and smell and just kind of get a sense for that. I'm sure we've all probably had ginger before, but it's half a cup of grated fresh ginger. I don't actually have a grater, so I just chopped it up. So again, with the theme of kind of like just going with what we have and what's accessible to us. So ginger, as we know, is very warming. It's kind of spicy and pungent, and this really increases like the circulation of the body and gets things moving and kind of helps alleviate cold symptoms, which includes things like lung congestion and cough and aches and lack of appetite and stuff like that. But ginger is also anti-inflammatory. So kind of in the way that turmeric is, except for ginger is warmer. So in that way, it really like provides even more warmth to an already warm sort of remedy. So we have half cup of that. Oh, and one thing to note also is you can use dry ginger. If you do that though, you want to use half the amount. So if I have if I'm going to use 1/2 cup of fresh ginger, if I had only dry, I would use 1/4 of a cup. And that's because when you take out the water, it's more concentrated, right? Because like right now in this ginger, the water's taking up space. That's not actually medicine. But when you dry it, then that's pretty much all is concentrated, so you need less. So you can use dried if you want.
I have a quick question in the chat. Any suggestions on where to get garlic right now? All stores seem to be sold out when I've ordered groceries. That's a bummer. So I got mine from Publix through Instacart, and they were able to get it. What you can do sometimes is make like a special item on your delivery service. Sometimes they take really high frequency items off of things like Instacart, but you can make a special request to try and find it.
And maybe check with your local farmers and stuff like that too.
Oh, go ahead.
Maybe check with your local farmers and stuff like that too. See if anyone around you is growing it.
Yeah, I think with I know if you're in Atlanta, Community Farmers Market is still doing their thing. So you can do pick up curbside through them. Sam also said your DeKalb Farmers Market. That would be a great lead because they're never running out of garlic ever. It would be if the DeKalb Farmers Market didn't have garlic on the shelves. Somebody else asked, do you leave the skin on the ginger?
I do. Yeah, I do. And we always do at the clinic too. So I think that's a preference. Like you could take it off if you want, but that's just like more work. So we just wash it. You wash the outside really well, and then you're going to end up pressing that out anyway. Like the skin's not going to end up in your finished product. So it's not really necessary to take the skin off.
Yeah, you can just scrub it. That's a great point for anytime you're making, like I don't always buy organic because sometimes I can't afford it. But anytime I'm going to be using something for medicine or something that the rind and the skin are still intact, go ahead and buy organic and like a wash or just scrub it really good. That would be my suggestion. Taryn also says you can use a spoon to sort of peel it and scrape off a thin layer if you want to, especially if you've got the time.
Yeah, I mean, if you feel like doing that, like that's great. Do what you want.
Mine definitely has skin in it. I did not have time.
Okay. Next up is horseradish. So if you've ever had horseradish before, you know it's kind of intense. Very hot, to me at least. And so in this recipe, we're using 1/4 of a cup of fresh horseradish. If you've ever tried to look for horseradish, you know that or fresh horseradish, you know that it's very hard to find. The only place I actually know of in Atlanta that I've ever really found it is DeKalb Farmers Market. And even then, like, maybe not. So you can use dried. We've used dried a lot that we've gotten at 7 Onda. That's probably not an option right now, but we have done that. And also, I mean, you could use like prepared horseradish. If you have a friend that works at a restaurant or something, they often will have horseradish that has maybe like vinegar and some other stuff mixed in. You could use pickled horseradish. You could use wasabi even. Like we're just going for that like really hot moving kick. So horseradish, the first time I had fire cider, I had it without horseradish, and then a friend had it with horseradish, and I was not prepared for the level up that horseradish was. But it's a great decongestant. So like immediately after taking it, I was like definitely cleared out, and the pungent scent really helps with respiratory function. So that is actually kind of a common theme with all of these herbs, oddly enough, given the times, is that they do just generally support respiratory function. But mostly it's there for that like stimulating, moving, even a little bit antimicrobial effect.
And then somebody asks, if you were going to substitute the wasabi, how much would you use in place of the horseradish? Would it be the same amount, like 1-to-1?
That's a great question that I don't really know the answer to. I would say you would not do 1/4 of a cup of wasabi. I feel like that would be very intense. So I don't know the answer to that question. That might be something that you just have to kind of experiment with. And you could even add it after too, and just kind of like do it to taste.
Can I chime in, Heather? You good?
Yeah.
So commercially in the US a lot, you'll find that wasabi is actually just horseradish that they've dyed green. So it depends on where you buy it, how much substitution you would use. And then also if it's wasabi paste, you would use less because it's a higher volume and higher concentration. So if you get it from an Asian market, your wasabi is going to be more likely to be genuine wasabi, not just dyed horseradish, because those are two of the only plants that, like Heather was saying, move up through your sinuses. Like if you've ever bitten wasabi, it comes out your nose. And that's why it's so helpful with this remedy. So that would be something to think about as you're sourcing as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then somebody else asked, can you use ground ginger?
Ground?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like dried. That's my mom.
Yeah, and so Heather said, if dried, you're going to use half the amount that you would use fresh, because fresh has all the water in it.
Right.
You just use a half of the ingredient listing for fresh.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were supposed to use 1/2 cup of fresh ginger, you would use 1/4 cup of dried ginger. Okay, so we're putting the horseradish in there. I happen to have fresh. I grated that down. Then next we have turmeric. So we're using dried turmeric powder. And this kind of works the same way. If you only have fresh turmeric, you would just double it. So instead of 2 tablespoons of dried turmeric powder, you would just grate up 4 tablespoons of fresh turmeric, and you could use that, and that's fine. That's great. So it works both ways. So this is the root or the rhizome of the plant. And as we know, turmeric is super anti-inflammatory. And that's mostly due to its key constituent curcumin, which is what gives it that like really bright yellow-orange color. And that's also super high in antioxidants. So a lot of times our brightly colored herbs and foods and, you know, like blueberries and all that kind of stuff are really high in antioxidants. So usually the color is kind of a giveaway. It is a bit warming, not as much as everything else that we've already talked about, but it does kind of follow that theme. And it's a little bit antibacterial too. So it adds to that as well. I have dried powdered turmeric today. So we're going to do 2 tablespoons.
Turmeric is the best. I just put it on everything now and stain everything orange and yellow, like vegetables, potato, like just everything. Just throw some in there. It tastes so good, and it's so great for inflammation.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, and then next is black pepper. So we just do a couple of pinches of black pepper, and black pepper helps the body absorb specifically turmeric better, but other stuff too. It's, again, a little bit warming, and it also stimulates digestion. So kind of bringing it back to accessible kitchen medicine, I think people think about like pepper and salt and think that it's like weak sauce, but there's a reason that they made it to the center of your table, right? So black pepper is very powerful. You know, it aids digestion and really like helps to kind of assimilate everything. So don't knock black pepper. It's a great one. So we're just going to do a couple of pinches, freestyle. Three feels good. Okay. And then we have cayenne. So cayenne, it's actually like the fruit of the plant, the pepper, and it's also very worming. It's actually on the hot side, so, you know, more so than some of the things that we've talked about. And its main goal here is kind of for that moving energetic. So really getting things going, get the blood circulating. We talked about those like cold kind of symptoms that come with like winter and like cold and flu season and circulation. So it's good for that. And also it's what we call an activator. So it helps to the other plants and ingredients like work better. It helps to kind of like get everything going and combining, if that makes sense. And it also decreases congestion. Like, you know, if you've ever like sprinkled too much cayenne on your food, your like nose is running and all that. So that's definitely one of its huge additions here too. Okay.
Someone just asked, black peppercorns or ground, which is better?
So if you get the whole ones, then you want to grind it. So you can use like a mortar and pestle or a little coffee grinder or spice grinder. But you want to increase the surface area of it so that you can really pull out that medicine. But either is fine. You just would want to grind the whole peppercorns. Okay, and then we have, oops, I forgot to put the cayenne in there. So we have 1 teaspoon. You can add more if you want, but maybe like, you know, start out small because it can be intense. Okay, so we have elderberry. So we're talking about elderberry because it's on this recipe, but the reality is that elderberry is extremely hard to find right now. It usually is anyway during the flu season, but right now, you know, the moment the coronavirus kind of hit, like everybody bought up the elderberries, so it's really hard to find. But we can talk about it a little bit anyway. So we usually put in 1/4 cup of dried elderberries. And we use the berry here. Sometimes the leaves and flowers are also used for other things, but in this fire cider preparation, we use the berries. And elderberries are antiviral. So there's a lot of research specifically around the flu virus, and elderberries helping to keep the virus from replicating. So there's not research for any new viruses or anything like that, but for the flu, there is like solid evidence that elderberry can actually help with that. And they just in general are stimulating to the immune system. So they kind of do what all these other things are doing too. So again, like it's not necessary to have elderberry in this. Elderberry was not in the original recipe when people first started making fire cider. It's just an addition that we like to add for that extra immune boost. But all these other plants that we've already talked about are also super immune boosting too. So you don't necessarily need it. So if you can't find it, you know, don't freak out and feel like you can't make this medicine, because you can for sure. And again, it's antioxidant because of those bright colors. That's a giveaway for that. But yeah, elderberry is great, but again, you don't need it. But I have it, so I'm going to put it in.
Yeah, I was telling Heather, I've got like 4 ounces of elderberry left, and I'm hoarding it. So I won't be putting any in mine either. Gonna save that probably for a syrup. And one thing we talked about also is if you don't have elderberry today, but you do want it to be a part of your fire cider, you can always add it in 4 weeks when you strain and sweeten everything. So you could get a syrup of some sort. You could make it on your own, or you could purchase from someone else. There's some great local herbalists making syrup, and you could add it then if you wanted to.
Well, and that's actually what we've been doing for our care packs is a elder fire sort of, that's what we call it, but it's a syrup and a fire cider blend. So that's definitely something that you could do for sure. Okay. And then we have our apple cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar is traditionally the base, and it's not just a base though. In and of itself, it is medicinal. You know, apple cider vinegar helps with digestion, and it also clears sinuses like all of these other things. And it's also really good at pulling out aromatics. So all of these plants, if you've been chopping them, you know that they're very aromatic. They get into your lungs and they have like a very strong smell. So vinegar is one of the best for pulling out those. So you get that to transfer over to your finished product. And also it's great at pulling out minerals too. So we'll kind of touch on this when we get to the variations. But so it's going to pull out like the nutrients more so than maybe another base that you could use. Okay, so I actually forgot to put the onions in. So I'm going to put those in and then we'll pour our vinegar.
How many onions were you using for this, Heather?
Oh, just one. Did I talk about onion? Did I miss onion?
You missed onions.
I did. Okay. Well, let's go back to onion. So, onion has similar properties to garlic in some ways. It boosts the immune system. It has an affinity for the respiratory system. There's actually like a onion poultice that you can make when you have, you know, coughs and like respiratory congestion, that you can put onions on your chest with a towel because it will burn you maybe if you don't. And that'll like really help to clear out your lungs. And it also promotes digestion too, like all of these. So fire cider is not just an immune tonic, it's a digestive aid as well. And again, like kind of same as garlic, like it's anti-microbial, antibacterial, it's anti-inflammatory. And just like garlic, it also is best fresh. So if you had garlic, if you had onion powder or something like that, like you could use it, but it's not going to have the same sort of immune boosting effect. So we do one onion. But again, like if you don't like onions, don't put an onion in there. If you love onions, use two. It's whatever you want.
Yeah, red onion, yellow onion, any onion. That's what's so fun about fire cider. It's just like making it your own. That's why I love it so much.
Yeah, it's great. It's based on like what you have access to too. Okay. Then we have our apple cider vinegar. So I use this one, Bragg's, but there's other brands, Spectrum and probably others. Apparently it's not that hard to make. I was listening to a podcast the other day that was saying if you don't really know how to make wine and you try to make wine, it'll probably just turn into vinegar. So, you know. So we're doing 32 ounces of vinegar. And this one has the mother in it. You want to make sure that you get it with the mother. We just want to make sure everything gets submerged. Like so. And then a very important step before you cap it, you want to use parchment paper or wax paper under the lid because vinegar reacts with metal. So it's super sad, which I've made this mistake before, when you spend all this time and money buying these ingredients and then you forget to put parchment paper or wax paper underneath. You open up your fire cider 4 weeks later and the vinegar has eaten through the lid, which is gross, right? You don't want to then eat that, so you have to just toss it. So super important step to always remember to put parchment paper or wax paper underneath the lid.
Someone asked here, Isabel said, can I use a plastic Tupperware? I don't have jars.
I think if the lid to the mason jar is plastic, that's usually fine. Generally, we shy away from making medicine in plastic because it degrades. And then especially with something with this much turmeric in it, you will also ruin your container. It'll be orange forever. So glass is preferable, but nothing aluminum or anything that will react with the vinegar. But if you have like a high grade plastic, you can try it. I would say it might be worth the investment to get a 32-ounce mason jar. You can get them, if thrift stores ever open again, you can get them at a thrift store for 50 cents.
Yeah. Okay, so then you'll let it sit for 4 to 6 weeks and shake it every now and then. Like put it somewhere where you're going to remember, next to your vitamins or something, and like shake it every day. Like give it a good vigorous shake, work out your anger or whatever is going on. And then you will press it out. So we'll press out the mark, which the mark is all of the plant material after it's already been macerated, after it's already sat in here for several weeks. So we use these little, this one clearly is turmeric stained. We use these little muslin cloths, and that is a note, like if you have one that you use for fire cider, you should probably just like always use it for fire cider because you'll never get this stain out if you have turmeric in there ever. But if you don't have that, you don't have to use muslin cloth. You can use cheesecloth, maybe doubled up. You can use an old cotton t-shirt that you don't care about. You can use like an old pillowcase or something. Like you can get creative with it as long as it's cotton, and yeah, you can just use whatever you have around. But keep in mind that it will stain if you have turmeric in there. And then our last step is to label. So I already wrote up a label with all of these ingredients, and we're just gonna stick it on the jar. And it has everything I put in there, and also it has like a batch number. So for the clinic, we always do a batch number so we remember when we made it, but also so it can tie back to the worksheet that we make for it. So the batch number for this, if you're making it along, is fire, and then the date 042220-01. So we do -01 because a lot of times we're making several batches. We might have 4 of these, and we would do like 01, 02, 03, 04. And if you're making it for other people or whatever, you can do that. You can just like quadruple this recipe and make a ton of it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Once you press it out, you can add honey if you want to. If you want to add honey, the general ratio that we go for is a 1:8. So that means 1 ounce of honey for every 8 ounces of fire cider. So if you were to get 32 ounces out of this, you would just add 4 ounces of honey. But if you like things more sweet, you can add more. If you don't want any honey, you don't have to add honey. But then you'll want to store it in the fridge. It will be okay for a while outside of the fridge, but it lasts way longer in the fridge, about a year. So that's nice to just have it around, especially if you make a big batch. You don't want it to go bad. And vinegar, like it's kind of hard to go bad, but if it does go bad, you'll know, like you'll smell it. So, go back to those organoleptics. So unless there are any questions, we are going to move on to some variations. So I think Sam has made a different variation, and then we're going to talk about some different ideas that you can maybe throw in. Yeah.
Sam, before you get started, Sam, Kaylee asks, how much do you drink at a time once it's finished?
So it's up to you. So it says like nip as needed. I usually just do like a shot of it. But you can take a little sip anytime throughout the day. It's a really loose dosage with this remedy. So it's basically just whatever you want to do. If it is too intense for you, you can add it to a little bit of water because it can be quite intense, like just straight vinegar. Yeah. And then there are a couple other things that you can do with it too. You can use it as a salad dressing. You can make a bone broth out of the mark that you already macerated. That's a great way to like get out anything that hasn't gotten out. So to kind of like make the most out of the medicine that you're making. I feel like I'm forgetting a few things. Sam?
Yeah, well, Melanie suggested Bloody Marys in the chat. I've done that too. It's very tasty. Yeah, you make it into a soup. Part of the reason we use a cloth to filter it is so you can get the most out of it. And then when you have it in the cloth, you have like basically a cold salad. So I boil that down in a crock pot over like 4 hours, and you have a really strong vinegar broth. So I call it like fire cider soup, whatever I make after it. Some people heat it up with hot water as a tea, take a shot. Yeah, there's any way you eat anything, you can put on your salad.
I love it in chicken soup. It's one of my favorite things to put in chicken soup because it's really warming. And you want chicken soup when you're feeling really like shit, it's a cloudy day or something and you need a boost. The fire cider is that boost.
Yep. And you can also use it for cooking your greens because vinegar helps pull out minerals. So if you're sauteing anything or whatever, you can throw a little splash in there. And then one thing like we've been doing, there is another way, like a quick way if you're really eager. The best way is to just let it sit for the 4 weeks, just to be patient, to, you know, put that time into your medicine. But since we've been dispensing so much at the clinic, we've had to kind of like quicken the process, I should say. So you can do a quick method where you use heat. So you would put this jar into a large stock pot, fill it with cold water, and then bring it to a boil and let it simmer for 4 hours. And then you would keep adding water. Make sure it's hot water if you do that, because if you add cold water to a very hot pot with glass in it, it's going to shatter, which is not fun at all and has happened. So just like a note there. But if you need it quicker, if you're trying to give it to people during this time or whatever, you can do it that way as well.
We've got one other question really quickly. Somebody said they were getting creative. Is it okay that I add it in a honey substitute first?
As in like in your jar already right now. The concern with that is sweetener, sometimes it ferments. That's why we add the honey last to ours. You may end up with a alcoholic thing if you added it first. So that's a little bit of a bummer. I mean, if you already did it, try it, see what happens. But generally anything with honey, it no longer becomes shelf stable or a substitute because of the water and sugar content in it. So,
yeah, so maybe brush it out a little sooner or something. Maybe don't let it go as long.
I think that's all the questions. I'm excited to hear about your variations, Sam.
Oh, I mean, I take no credit for inventing the green onion, but I made it, if you guys see, I call it quarantonic, because I didn't want to leave the house and go to the grocery store. So Heather already kind of talked a little bit about some of the substitutes. And I know Kursten was sharing what she made too, and we both used lemon in ours. I used lemon instead of the elderberry. Any citrus will do, because part of the reason we put elderberry is the vitamin C content. And so y'all know oranges are really high in vitamin C and things like that. You can use the wedges or you can use just the zest. It's totally fine to do either one. So that's a good substitute. And I think when envisioning substitutions, I'll call you all back to the meditation we did. Like, what is a plant telling you? What is it trying to convey? So if you want, someone asked in the chat about gearing your fire cider towards a certain thing. Like if you know you have a family full of people with asthma and you want your fire cider to be really lung strong, you can add lung supportive herbs in there and it'll have a focus, particularly because the things in there like ginger and cayenne are so moving. It moves the plant that you want where you want it to go, right? So if you put a bunch of lung herbs in there, this is such a moving formula, it'll bring the healing to the lungs too. So a great example for that is thyme. That's what I put in mine. You can put rosemary in there as well. I love the comment about rosemary being sexy earlier. It's one of my favorite herbs. I used green onion in mine, which I haven't done before, because green onion has a little more water than the bulb onions you find in a store. So make sure you're kind of watching it better, again, because you don't want it to ferment. With cayenne, you can use any type of chili pepper. You can use a jalapeno, anything, chili paste, even if you wanted. Yeah, would be a good thing. If you're out of ginger, you're out of turmeric, a lot of common teas you'll find on the shelf, like what's that brand? Yogi. Just open the bag of ginger tea and put it in your cider. Like, there's ways to get creative. You have ginger in your house somewhere. So there's really good ways to do that. Same with garlic. And for sweetener, again, like, thank you for asking that. You can use agave, you can use maple syrup. If you can use regular sugar, I would not just put powdered sugar in there. You would want to dilute it into a simple syrup. And we generally make our syrup 1-to-1, 1 cup of water to 1 dry cup of sugar. So we kind of call, I don't know if Heather said this already when I was having technical difficulties, but it's like chicken soup. You have a base, and everyone's recipe, everyone's grandma's chicken soup is the best, right? So that everyone has a different recipe, a different reason. So basically, as long as you have either an onion or garlic in there and vinegar, you're gonna be fine. So that's kind of like simple. And then this is what it looks like after. You saw Heather's and Kursten's today. When you shake it every day, it takes on the color. If you have elderberry in there, it'll be red and purple, kind of more vibrant. Mine is lemony and turmeric-y, so it's orange. And you shake it every day just to make sure you're really mixing it, because the powder that you put in there will settle. So that's just like a quick variation. Does anyone have any specific questions on alternates they can do? You can raise your hand physically, or you can type it in the chat. Because it's really like the point we want to make here is that it is so easy to make medicine in your house, in your kitchen. You eat hopefully every day, right? Like, that's a really great option to nourish yourself.
That's great, Melanie. So Melly says, I love putting rose hips in mine. That's what I've got right here to add as well. I just love rose hips. So I did a jalapeno. I just sliced it up. So if you're going to do something different on the cayenne, I sliced it and then learned the lesson over again, not to touch my face after I sliced the jalapeno. That was fun today. I'm just going to put an intuitive amount of rose hips, but Sam, do you have a suggestion about how much rose hips to use in something like this?
Yeah, I don't think there's a wrong answer. Just like if you want to do it kind of proportionate to the other things. So if you want it to be really anti-inflammatory, you want those ingredients to have a higher percentage of volume in the jar, but there's no wrong answer. I'd say at least a quarter cup.
I'm going to also add in some cinnamon to mine, just some cinnamon. Because I don't love spicy things. So anytime I can make it taste really good, I'm more likely to take my fire cider.
Absolutely. And cinnamon's really moving and warming as well. It's a great addition. You could do different seasons. You can make a fall spice fire cider where you put cloves and cinnamon and allspice in there. And then in the spring, you do rose hips and lemon and things like that. Because you want to take this, right? You want to make it interesting. It also doesn't have to be the same every time. We harp on the labeling because we're serving it to a broad public and we want to know what's in there and to be able to repeat it. As long as you have vinegar in your jar, like, really no wrong way to do it. Someone asked if I could help with allergies. It helps with congestion and moving inflammation. So for sure, I wouldn't necessarily indicate it for a food allergy, with seasonal allergies, I think, unless you have something to say, Heather.
No, I would agree with what you said.
As we wrap up, I guess we can talk a little bit more about Herbalista if anyone has any more questions. Heather, do you have anything to add, Kursten?
I think that's it. I think the biggest thing, and you all have said this, but it never hurts to say it more, is like, this is an intuitive process. So when I sat down to make mine, I imagined certain things in it. So I just grabbed them, and there's nothing wrong with following that. So, you know, use this as an exercise in empowering your intuition and your immune system, because you can do both.
Awesome.
There is no wrong way. I think that's basically the whole theme of this. Like, you really cannot mess it up.
I have a question that some of us are probably wondering. How can we most help Herbalista with the, like, do you guys need ingredients? Do you need, what do you need the most? And how can we help?
Beautiful question. Heather actually, I think, is going to share her screen. We have a published wish list of things that we need really urgently. We do about 60, we see minimum 60 folks with our care packages every week. So the first thing on that list, you can share your screen whenever, Heather, is actually like plastic containers to give them out. Fire cider, y'all are made. I hope a couple of you made it today. If you don't want it, we'll take it. So we're looking for a couple things. So she'll pull that up in a second and everyone will be able to see.
Did it work?
Yeah, your screen is up.
Yeah, okay, so I'm on this, we have this COVID community care guide that we've started since this pandemic kind of hit. And on it, there's a lot of different resources, but one of the first is our wish list, kind of what we've been doing, and then the wish list. So that's where you can find it. If you go to the website, you go to the COVID community care guide and or community care center, and that's where it's at. But this is like kind of the main things that we're dispensing at the moment and stuff that we're moving through at a very rapid pace and are sort of reaching out to the community too for potential donations or support in that way. Because we're moving through a lot more medicine than we're used to moving through. And as you can see, it is a lot of very simple things like vitamin C and zinc and, you know, chamomile tea and peppermint, but those are really powerful medicines. Just because they're simple doesn't mean that they're not powerful. So definitely if you have any of that, or if you're willing to go find it and donate, that's amazing.
I have peppermint and spearmint that I'm drying right now. I just had a really huge harvest out of my new spring growth. So if you guys would be interested in that, I can donate that to you.
Yeah, so that's kind of the, that's like Grow a Row territory. So one of the programs that we also have is called Grow a Row. And that's where we kind of work with the community to source herbs locally, kind of really focusing on like bioregional medicine. And that's even more important right now because supply chains are shutting down and we're really kind of having to fall back on our local herbal infrastructure. So if you're interested in donating anything like that, what you would need to do is go to, I can't speak, the Grow and Harvest records and kind of fill out one of those. And then you could donate it just so that we would have a paper trail for that. Oops. Sorry, I've never done the share screen thing, so it's kind of weird. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, can you please add the link and all of this to the comments so that everybody can have access to it?
For
Yeah,
sure.
what we can actually do is we can add the link to the comment, but the chat goes away at the end of this call. If you want to, so we're going to keep talking about Herbalista. We're going to do another grounding meditation. And then before you leave the room, once we end, if you'll just put your email address in the chat box, I'll email you a direct message with all this information. So it'll be right there for you and won't disappear as soon as the Zoom meeting ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And then what else? We had wish list. And then another way that you can support is direct donation. If you have that ability, that's always great. But also a way to kind of donate and then get something for it is we have this toolkit on our website, the member toolkit. And you sign up for $5 a month as the minimum. And then we upload different recipes every month, different resources, whatever we're kind of like working on at the time. You can see here we have like cold care kitchen medicine because we're really focused on like accessible medicine that everybody can have access to. Electrolyte blend, that's something that we're making right now to supplement the folks that we're giving care packages to. So that's a great kind of, you know, like mutually beneficial thing if you are interested in that. There's constant learning and worksheets and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, what else am I missing? Sam?
In terms of the wish list, so I guess like the biggest thing right now is, medicine and inventory. When Heather was describing row, I guess I'll just reiterate, because there was a couple of like terms in there she used, is that the backlog, for example, for us to get new 1 ounce bottles is 2 months. For us to get some herbs from the distributors we normally use is 2 to 6 months. So we're kind of shifting our focus into growing way more than we used to. So if you have the space, the time, the seeds, we're really focusing on getting people to grow these things in their yards. And that's kind of what you meant by bioregional, because as much as we love like a straggler's root and certain really tropical popular herbs, like they don't grow here, and so it's harder to get. And so how can we use what we have here, especially even at the land, right? The point of us talking today is Earth Day, right? So locally source things from our community, sustainable farmers, local farmers. There's all these ways we can like connect the movements that we're doing and bring the environment into herbalism. And so much of that is about getting the plant from where you are. Like the rosemary from your yard is going to nourish you on a way deeper level than the rosemary that's shipped to you from across the ocean. And another way that we see that is empowering folks to make their own medicine is also to grow it. Like I have a bunch of herbs in my front yard and I love using those way more than things from the store, even if the thing from the store is more indicated for what I'm going through. So I just think maybe want to like reiterate that. And even if you don't grow a bulk amount, because in some of our teas, for example, we use like a pound of nettles. I don't understand you're not going to grow that in your yard, but any little bit counts. And also part of Herbalista's mission is getting you to feel that result as well. So any growing questions, please hit us with those and we'd be happy to connect you. We work a lot with the Wild Center. And because of the COVID, we have some strict parameters on volunteering in person. But anything you want to do to help there, if you want to get your hands dirty, we can use that as well.
Right. Yep. And when all this kind of like blows over, maybe if it does, we do usually have sort of like class installments that go with Grow Row, where we do one on like seeding and germinating and up potting and, you know, like how to dry herbs, like different ways to dry herbs. So definitely keep an eye out for that when things are less crazy, for sure. And one kind of like notable resource on the Grow Row page on Herbalista is this Materia Medica. It's a very kind of like stripped down version of a lot of these plants that we can grow locally, and just short little monologues of them, and kind of like the part that is used and their actions and their indications. So if you're interested in growing, you can kind of learn a little bit about the medicinal properties of whatever you're growing. And I think that's a really great resource, and it's little bite-sized chunks. It's not like full pages. And yeah, that's.
And next Wednesday, in place of our monthly health fair, just one more plug, I know we have to go into the meditation. We traditionally would offer a full day health fair open to the public once a month. And so what we're going to do in the meantime is offer an online class, and we're going to be distilling wild rose next Wednesday afternoon. I don't know if Heather has the exact time. I don't know it, but you can find on any of our Herbalista social media. If you ever want to teach, that's a great way to volunteer from home too. If there's something you're really good at, you want to share with us, we're open to that. And also, the mental health resources. As this time shifts, we focus really strong in our response on immune system at the beginning, and we will continue to do so. Also, just the weight of the world is on everyone's shoulders right now. So any mental health guides you all have and insight is appreciated as well, and that are particularly distributable to multiple audiences.
Yeah, whatever ideas y'all have, you can send our way. This is a community project. It's more than just us. So for sure. One other thing is, I don't know if y'all are aware of the Homestead Atlanta, but starting next week, I think they're opening up a new system that's online classes, because, you know, in history, they've been like all in-person classes from all these Atlanta makers and creatives, and, you know, there's metalworking and woodworking and herbalism and all different kinds of things. But they're opening up a new web-based system, and there will be classes from Herbalista on there. So definitely, if you're interested in that, you can check out the Homestead ATL website, and that should be up and running next week. So keep an eye out for that for sure.
Thank you.
I mean, if you're, Herbalista is for a wide spectrum of people. If you're new to herbalism and you're trying to learn more and really get your legs underneath you, I know this stuff can be really intimidating at first. Herbalista is the organization to turn to. They have so many resources, recipes, materia medica, all of those great things to just get you into it. If you're an experienced herbalist and you're looking to take things from the individual household level to support your community, then Herbalista, again, is like the place that you move to, because they're able to really sort of show you the way of how you can use all of your skills and your resources to give back to your community through herbalism. So basically, no matter where you're at with herbalism, a newbie or a very experienced with a full-blown garden, this is the organization to turn to. So please support them with a wish list, a donation, your time. They're really deserving of it. So I'm really excited that you all were able to join today and walk us through this. Thank you so much. So now what we'll do is just move into a nice grounding. It's just going to be a few minutes because we don't have, you know, too much time left, and I want you all to be able to keep doing your thing. Yes, Sarah says also Folk Care. Thank you, Sarah. So my brand is Folk Care. If you're into all of this energetics and meditation, if you're looking for emotional support, that's a lot of what I do with my medicine. If you're like me and you're really sensitive to energy, and you know the day-to-day life can really just like put you through it, check out Folk Care. It's really basically just my mission to try and help support people through their trauma, through their life, through their shadows. So if you're into that sort of stuff, check it out. It's my favorite thing to do. So in that same vein of thought, we'll go ahead and do another meditation. It's funny, when I was getting ready for this talk today, I turned to my plant medicine deck, and the card that I drew was hawthorn. And I don't know if you can totally see it. I hope you can. I share this to you for lots of reasons. The first being, you know, that plant meditation we did at the beginning was all about the heart center, about connecting and putting plant medicine into your heart. And what we're going to do to close is to just ground you down. And so hawthorn and this depiction of hawthorn is both of those things rolled into one. So we're just going to grow some roots. So again, just get comfortable in your space. Uncross your legs and your arms if you can. Feet on the ground is a great position to be in, especially for this meditation. We're just going to start by connecting to the breath. Again, breathing in and exhaling out. Noticing the pattern of your breath. Is it ragged and sharp? Is it full and slow? Don't force or change anything about your breath as you find it. Just notice. And we're going to start with 3 breaths at the beginning. And what we're going to do with that breath is breathe in through our nose, deep, deep, deep. And we're going to exhale out through our mouth, letting the air come from your body. And we're going to do that one more time, in through the nose, noticing how that breath wants to go deep, deep down into the belly, filling your body, and exhale out forcefully through your mouth. We're going to do that breath one more time, inhaling through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth, all the air that's in your body. And if you feel comfortable with that last breath, just let your eyes close. Keep breathing in whatever way feels natural for you, just remembering the only thing that meditation is not forcing the breath, not controlling the breath, but staying mindful and aware of the breath. It's a beautiful thing to have this connection to your body and with this process that your body does and wants to do. So continue to stay with the breath, and I just want you to bring your awareness to the top of your head. Having that awareness there, just noticing the top of your head, what you feel there. And what I want you to do is let that awareness drop through the body as we stay connected to the breath, noticing our brows, any tension we're holding around our eyes. Bringing it to the jaw, breathing in and exhaling any tension you find there at the jaw. Continuing to move down as you breathe to the throat, noticing this narrow channel that has to move and funnel all of this energy, letting those muscles relax as you breathe. Go ahead and drop down to the shoulders and to the chest. Moving to the belly as you breathe deeply into that belly. Exhaling as you move your awareness to your hips. Breathing into that space. Noticing any tension you find along the way and not trying to do anything with it. Just breathing and noticing. Allowing your awareness to move down further to your thighs, to your knees, to your legs. Breathing as you let your awareness fall to your feet. And at your feet, I want you to use your imagination to notice that you have roots that grow out of your feet. When you notice these roots, I want you to let them grow down into the earth and just notice maybe what color they are. They can be any color, they're your roots. What size are they? Are they big or small? What sort of texture are they made of? Are they warm or cool? How far down do they grow? Breathing in as you let these roots grow deep down into the soil, past the rocks and the cool earth, letting those roots grow down layers and layers and years of our history and our earth. Recognizing that what you feel today is what brought all of us here today in celebration of Earth Day. Noticing that the earth is always there for you. And I want you to breathe in as these roots are connected to Mother Earth. And notice how good this feels to feel supported. Notice how good it feels to know that you don't have to do everything on your own. That there is always gravity and ground beneath your feet wanting to support you. Take a deep breath in here, fully as much as you can drink in, and exhale fully. I want you to take another breath in, and on this breath, I want you just to imagine that all of that comforting, supportive energy comes up through the roots and fills your body. Knowing that you can have this exchange, that you can ask for this energy whenever you need it, because your roots are always there, the earth is always there, and your breath is always there. Take another breath in, and as you let this energy drink in again, with your exhale, I want you to imagine all of that tension you found earlier moves through your body down those roots into Mother Earth. Because she knows what to do with it. She knows how to transmute it and hold it so that you don't have to. We're going to do 2 more rounds of this breath where again you allow Mother Earth energy to come up through those roots and through your body with your inhale. And release any tension that you're holding with your exhale, allowing that energy to move through the earth in sweet relief. We'll take another breath in this way, again, just allowing that earth energy to come up through your body, noticing how good that feels. Exhaling fully as you let any tension or worry, any energy that doesn't serve you, be returned to its source. I want you to pause here and notice how good you feel, how easy it was to get into this space. I want you to extend gratitude for Mother Earth, who is always willing to have this exchange with you. Take another breath in and exhale, bringing your awareness back to your body, noticing your feet on the floor, your legs in your chair, your back against your chair, noticing how your hands sit on your legs, taking another breath in and exhaling as you allow your awareness to come back into the room. And I count you in at 5, 4, give a shake to your shoulders, 3, 2, a nice inhale in, and exhale 1. And when you feel ready, open your eyes and come back to the space. I love that meditation. I do it all the time. I call it a grow your roots meditation. It's something really nice to do. And like I said, you always, no matter where you are, whether it's on a bus or in your home or at work, you always have the 3 ingredients that you need to do that meditation. You have your breath, you have the earth, and you have those energetic roots that always want to just support you. We don't have to do it all alone. And that's such an important lesson. So I hope that if you feel overwhelmed or, as you move through these weeks, all of this COVID craziness, whenever you feel yourself floating up, 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 just remember we can always bring it back down. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you enjoyed the meditations. I hope you enjoyed the medicine making. Thank you all so much for being here. Don't forget to put your email in the chat box if you're interested in connecting further. Anybody have any questions before we jet out of here? You all look so peaceful. It's so nice. Yes, and so Sam said if you want to contact us, there's an email address there. I'll also include it in the email that I send out. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Maria. You're awesome. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you to everyone who showed up and made medicine. Thanks for listening and supporting us. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. We're here to support you in this time and any other time. So thank you all so much. I hope you have blessed evenings and go forth and be well.